there is an area, and I take that, but it is a very important area you raised there just now, the question of a justice issue, because primarily those who do the backyard abortions, as you said, they risk their lives and so on. But if the government moved towards making this more available, you believe that we will in fact be doing some equalization there?
I think that if abortions, for specified reasons, if you wish, were made safe and legal, and that women knew what was available, then they would have the choice to have a safe termination of pregnancy if that is what they needed.
And I echoed that because I want to go back to Attorney Seebaran on this, because one of the comments attributed to you said that you believe one of the reasons that we are so backward is because governments make pacts with religious organizations. Explain, please.
One definitely gets the impression that there are arrangements made and promises made because in order to secure votes. It's very difficult to pin down, but I have myself experienced evidence that commitments are made, that this issue will not be touched or that issue will not be touched. I mean, it's nothing to be able to prove on a radio program and so on. But if I could just touch on the magnitude of the problem. Mm-hmm. Dr. Sharpe, in a forum that I attended as in the audience about 2 weeks ago, alluded to statistics which she had pulled up for the purpose of her presentation. Mm-hmm. But let me say that the incidence of abortion is very widespread based on the data that was collected at the commencement of the Aspire project in 1999, because when we went into 5 public hospitals, Port Spain, General, San Fernando, Sangre Grande, Tobago, and Mount Hope, what we found was very, very poorly kept data and unfiltered data, unclassified data, which showed that there were 5,000 women who were being admitted to what we know as the slip and fall wards back then. Now, since then, the record keeping, I don't know if it has tightened up or if it has become more difficult to get the information. But also, what we turned up was that based on other indicators, there were almost or an equal number of abortions taking place every year as live births. So we have just under 20,000 live births taking place in Trinidad, approximately that. I'm rounding up very broadly. And that number of abortions every year. So this is a very widespread phenomenon. And there is a sense in which over the decade or so, or as time has gone on, in which women have taken the matter into their own hands in the sense of embracing medical abortion, where there are safe drugs and safe protocols of drugs, which, of course, I think I should leave that to Dr. Sharpe as a medical doctor to address that kind of detail. And I want to endorse what she has said, that women who have access to information and money and resources, those are not the ones who have the problems. It is the poor women, very young women, marginalized women, disadvantaged women who don't know what they're doing and who end up with unwanted pregnancies and then become desperate and so on.
The voices you hear this morning, Attorney Lynette Seebaran-Suite and Dr. Jacqueline Smith. Dr. Smith, right in that area, I'm sorry, Dr. Sharpe, I apologize. Right in that area comes the issue. I know I want to spend more time with you on what the psychological impact that, bringing a child to term. Let me just go straight to the question. A lot of folks don't see the humanness in this discussion. Instead, they look at numbers, they hear presentations being made. And when you look deep inside, as you would do, and advocates like the attorney would do, there is a lot of damage done not only to the mother but the family that folks are not understanding. Speak to how difficult it is in this area of the Zika virus for a mother to go forward with a pregnancy where she knows the child is deformed, where because of the link in the microcephaly is what I'm talking about. How difficult is that to force a woman to bring a child forward or force her into an abortion that it risks her life?
All right, let me put this in the context of women's agency over their bodies and in the context of really what is a fundamental issue of choice. Mm-hmm. Choice requires that you have information, education, and access to services, okay? In this discussion about the Zika virus and its impact on microcephaly, we have really not talked about the issue of choice. Mm-hmm. And fundamentally, nobody is saying that a woman should have a termination of pregnancy because she has a child with microcephaly. Nobody is saying that. What we're saying is that women should have the opportunity to make that kind of decision for themselves with the support of who she feels she needs to have support from. She also needs to have information about the implications of either choice. If she chooses to terminate a pregnancy, then she deals with the implications of that. If she chooses not to terminate a pregnancy, she deals with the implication of that decision as well. And that is where I think the issue needs to reside. It has to be an issue that is addressed by the woman with full information. So if you have a child if you are pregnant and you contract the Zika virus and you run the risk of having a child with microcephaly, first of all, you are not going to really know for sure until maybe 18 weeks when it is possible to do the kind of investigations that will allow to decide what's happening. Mm-hmm. What we know about the Zika virus thus far is that it impacts the growing brain, and the implications of the microcephaly in conditions of Zika seem to be severe implications of microcephaly. If a woman decides to continues her pregnancy and she has a child who has a significant disability, then there are ongoing requirements for support. If this child has microcephaly, the implications of the microcephaly include intellectual disability of sometimes considerable severity, problems with speech and language and all of that, so that there will be a need to access the kinds of services that will support. And I also need to say that if somebody has microcephaly does not go away. So this is going to be a problem, not just in childhood and adolescence. It is also going to be a problem for the duration of that individual's life. And somebody with microcephaly, with severe intellectual difficulties will require ongoing care for the duration of their lives. That is what I would like to say. So that decisions, and I go back to the issue of choice, that choice needs to be made in the context of as much knowledge that is available at the time that the choice is being made.
One of the reasons that I go ahead, attorney.
Rennie, what I wanted to say was that a state-of-the-art policy on the content of abortion, of a liberalized or a modern or civil abortion law would follow one of two paths. We can either follow the British model and leave it within the realm of the therapeutic indication, which also includes, for example, in the United Kingdom, rape, incest, and fetal abnormality. Or we can adopt a more liberal law, as has been done in Guyana, where in the early stages of the pregnancy, let's say the first trimester, it is the choice of the woman and her doctor and her family to make that decision in privacy. And thereafter, it becomes increasingly difficult to achieve a termination because higher tests have to be met. And this is in keeping with the higher value which ethically the fetus gains as the pregnancy gains. So it's an ethical question where you are trying to balance the rights of the pregnant woman with the rights of the growing fetus. And you have to, as it would, draw a line in the sand. It's a bit of a futile debate to engage in the esoteric discussion of when does life begin, when does a person become a person, when does one acquire constitutional rights, that sort of thing. So one of the advantages, and counterintuitively, in countries that have for many years had, and I hope that Dr. Sharpe will bear me out in this, countries that have had liberal abortion laws, counterintuitively, the rates of abortion dropped because you have an opportunity of interrogating what the woman is doing in terms of uptake of contraception, in terms of lifestyle choices, in terms of non-directive pre and post counseling, so that you can intervene to find out, why are women having unwanted pregnancies? Not unplanned pregnancies, and then unwanted pregnancies, and then pregnancies which they are determined to terminate.
As the director of the FPP, that is a question indeed that I want to get from Dr. Jacqueline Sharpe, because there are many who feel, opponents to abortion, who feel or who argue that if you follow the liberalized model across the world, that you're going to have this rush of people going into abortion, and the evidence say differently.
All right, just on the 11th of May, there was an interesting article published in the Lancet Medical Journal, specifically on the issue of abortion. Mm-hmm. And what they did was to collate the available information on abortion statistics over between 2010 and 2014. Mm-hmm. And it's really very interesting, because one of the things that is demonstrated very clearly in the Lancet article is that the incidence of abortions in the developed world is lower than the number of abortions in the developing world. And it's a significant difference. They measure the number of abortions per 1,000 women, and the global rate is about 35 per 1,000. That works out to a rate, and it has some very sophisticated statistical analysis in it. But one of the things that's really important is that the abortion rate in the Caribbean is the highest in the world, really, in 2014. Mm-hmm. And our rate has been increasing, whereas the rates in some of these other countries have been decreasing. They were not able to make a direct link between the legal status of abortion and the illegal status, but the developed country is very significant. And I think it speaks specifically to the issue of access to modern family planning services.
Access to
and
information,
it really needs an assessment of what you call the unmet need for family planning. And that's specifically measured by the number of women in union who are fertile, who do not want to be pregnant in the next 2 years. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And we in Trinidad and Tobago have not measured that since 1989. We do not really know what our unmet need for family planning is. We do not know at the moment we don't even know what our family planning uptake rate is, because we have not measured it. Mm-hmm. We could guess, but we have not done a demographic and health survey for many, many years. One of the things that we know, that there's a significant unmet need for family planning in young people, and there's also based on the fact that we're seeing a lot of women who are struggling financially, having more children than they really want or plan for. We suspect that the unmet need for family planning is high. If we really want to decrease the rate of abortions, we have to provide modern contraceptive services, easily available and widely available to everyone. We also need to recognize that even in contexts where there is a full access to modern methods of family planning, family contraceptives are not totally safe, and so there is going to be a contraceptive failure rate within that rate. Mm-hmm. So that we need to and I think we need to be pragmatic and evidence-based in how we develop policies.